Good evening, everybody. Welcome to GeekyKOOL presents Geeky Cinephiles. I'm Larry the Professor, and here we've got Joe, or as he's called today, Clark Kent, but a little different spelling there.
Clark Clint.
Yeah, exactly. Clint. Yes, Mr. Eastwood. No, that's not it.
Mr.
So we are happy to be able to come on and talk a little bit about the summer blockbuster superhero movie of Superman. Not to be confused with 1978 Superman. This is a reimagining, and so we're going to get into what our thoughts are on this movie. If it was super, or if it was just villainous to put out. So, kind of, what'd you think? Go ahead, Joe.
I said, amen to that.
So Superman starts off with with right middle of the action. Superman is falling from the sky in over the polar area where his Fortress of Solitude is hidden, and falls down. Whistles for Krypto, the super dog, to come drag him home, and we find out that basically Clark has been being Superman for about 3 years. He's been flying around making himself well known. He's got himself involved with a bit of a political issue, not intending to, but stopping a army from invading another country. And that army that was going to invade is one of our allies. So it's caused a lot of friction politically for Superman. And we go on to find out that not only is this happening, but we have Lex Luthor, who Superman has not met yet, but has heard of and does know because he's this rich billionaire, trillionaire guy that is also super genius. So come to find out that Lex has been plotting and watching and trying to figure out Superman to where he knows all of his moves and trying to find his secret hideout.
That's
So
what he
Lex,
does.
Lex and his group of metahumans go up and find where Superman's Fortress of Solitude is, and they've got a secret weapon that lets them into the fortress, destroying almost all of the super robots that were there, and coming across video of Clark's parents sending him basically a greeting explaining why they're sending him to Earth and all that. But part of that video had been corrupted, and they just happen to have somebody with a super ability to connect right into the computer and be able to pull open the code. Whether or not, if it's really real or not, it gets exposed that Superman is actually here to take over the world, be an emperor, and impregnate as many Earthling ladies as possible.
Yeah. They definitely try to cancel.
Yeah, exactly. So this has caused friction and ends up causing Superman to get arrested by a super force led by Lex Luthor, and the government is able to go in all with it. You also have Rick Flag, who is the father of the Rick Flag from the Suicide Squad, where he got killed in Suicide Squad. So,
okay.
so Rick Flag is there to basically be that government agent instead of Waller as Rick Flag, and so they basically send Superman off to another dimension. And we'll not spoil all of this for you. I just wanted to kind of give you guys a synopsis of kind of what was going on in this movie. If you've not seen it, it is currently streaming on HBO Max, and you can also get this on any other platform that you can buy movies. So it's out there. It may still be in theaters. I'm not sure, or it may have been taken back by now. But I did see it in theater when it opened, opening day back in July. And I know Joe's had a chance to watch it, so we're going to give what we think of Superman 2025.
It was a good summary.
Oh, thanks.
I'd have been like, the guy shows up with the red boots on and the cape and he flies around.
If you're totally unfamiliar with what Superman is, that'd be a great synopsis. But most of us have at least an idea, have seen stuff with Superman to kind of know the red cape and flying around and saving people. So Joe, you've seen you've seen this movie. I know you've seen other previous Superman movies. What do you think of this contrasting with some of those movies? Or what are your thoughts on it? What do you think of the plot? What do you think of the additional superheroes in this movie and Crypto the Superdog? Tell us what your thoughts are.
Thanks for asking. It was interesting. I think I've seen all the Supermans except for Superman 4. So I had some good references to go back to.
Yeah.
It was it's really interesting how that it's very relevant towards today. Superman getting canceled. All of us could identify with getting canceled, and they did a good job of kind of interweaving that social media thing, but also keeping him, still human and still, even though he's an alien.
Yeah.
But I think Superman in this movie wants to be human really badly. I do.
Yeah.
I think
Yes. Well, he is raised from the time he's a little baby on to this point by parents that found him loving that. And in this movie, they're still alive. Mom, Pa Kent. And we'll talk about them because I got some things to say about them. But yeah, so he is basically raised human, and that seems to be kind of his anchor and everything. Is he identifies as a human? He even talks about that at one point with Lex. So yeah, I agree with you.
Well, and everything that he does is for humanity. He will not even kill a bad guy. He doesn't, because he wants to prove that he's human. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was so. Again, relevant to today, the soundtrack was cool. How they kept kind of in line with the original Superman movie soundtrack.
Right. Yep.
And I can't remember who that was, but that was really cool too.
The
superheroes. Go ahead.
The original one was by John Williams.
Oh, was John Williams?
Yeah. That
Cool,
iconic Superman sound. Of course, he's known for that, along with doing the soundtrack to Star Wars and many other things. But that whole John Williams soundtrack, and they do loop that in certain places in this movie and kind of give you that feel.
Yeah, they weave it in there, which is really cool. I've actually noticed, I think almost all the Superman movies have done that. Maybe not Man of Steel. But
It's very iconic. Yeah, I don't know Man of Steel did that, so I'm with you.
The extra superheroes. So is Mr. Terrific, is he supposed to be Cyborg?
No, he's a separate character.
Separate character, okay.
The third smartest human in the world is what.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that's why he creates all this stuff. Is he smarter than Lex? Hard to tell because Lex is pretty smart.
Could be.
Yeah.
I like the extra superheroes. I didn't necessarily know all of them, but they were still fun to watch. They each had their own cool little power,
Yep.
And obviously they're planting the seeds for the Justice League, which is Superman and Wonder Woman and Aquaman and everybody. That's kind of like Marvel's version of the Avengers.
Yep.
But yeah, they planted the seeds there. What do you think? What was your take on it?
So I thought they did a great job of basically giving you the heart of Clark Kent and Superman. And you're talking about how he wants to be human. That really is the nature of who Superman is. I thought that was missing in Man of Steel and all of the DC universe stuff that was going on with Batman versus Superman. I felt like he was just basically the character of Batman with superpowers. And so his character is supposed to give hope and supposed to be this inspiration and a Boy Scout, right? Not as much as Captain Marvel / Shazam is a Boy Scout because he's truly a kid, but more that whole Boy Scout mentality. And we do see that in here with the point where there's a giant kaiju attacking Metropolis, and Superman takes just a second to save not a dog or a cat, but to save a squirrel from getting crushed by the kaiju. And I thought that was like, I'm like, oh my gosh,
That's
that
voice.
there is such a Superman thing to do.
That's
And
voice. Yeah.
yeah. And then when he's fighting the kaiju, he doesn't want to hurt him and kill him. He wants to, be able to put him away, to be able to figure out what happened to him. And of course, the rest of the heroes, the Justice Gang, which I thought was funny that they were calling themselves the Justice Gang, and there's only 3 of them, other than Superman, and Superman's just an honorary member. That they end up killing him, and he's like, "What are we doing that?" So that truly comes out with that. I do love the 3 heroes that they picked. Mr. Terrific is a great character. He's so intellectual that a lot of times he misses anything emotionally. Quotient going on. He even tells Lois at one point, "I don't do relationships. I don't talk about it. I can't help you there." You've got Hot Girl, who is, if you watch the old Justice League cartoon from the 90s and the 2000s, she was a central figure, and gave. The only thing that was weird about her was they gave her a hawk scream that's not really in the comics nor in that animated series. It kind of distracted me for a moment at times when she did that, but otherwise, I thought her character, because she's pretty hardcore on things, so she doesn't mind killing things. She'll do whatever. And then you've got Guy Garner, who, for those who don't know, Guy Garner is one of the Green Lantern Corps members. So we think of Hal Jordan typically as Green Lantern, but Guy Garner is another one. When Hal Jordan wasn't available, they made Guy Garner the Green Lantern, but he's a bit of a jerk. Or, there's other words you could apply there, like if his name was William. Or I'm sorry, Richard, not William. That'd be bad. What am I thinking? So if he was a Richard, you could think of a word that goes along with that. But Guy Gardner is just that personality, and Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner. As somebody who grew up watching Guy Gardner, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a dream come true. Guy Gardner's Guy. Did you not catch it as Nathan Fillion?
No, I'll speak on that in a minute. But
yeah, his haircut really kind of makes it different there.
He's not Green Lantern?
He is a Green Lantern. So there's a core of Green Lanterns, and they're assigned to different sectors, Earth being one of the sectors. And Hal Jordan was the original one from Earth that we know of. Then, there's other things you can go on with that, but Hal Jordan is the one we typically think of. Guy Gardner was also a Green Lantern assigned to Earth. Being from Earth, he was assigned to Earth while Hal Jordan was gone doing whatever, and he's stuck on Earth. In the comic book, there's this great iconic scene that you got Guy Gardner, who's just, a jerk and conceited and all this stuff, and says something. And he's got all this power because he's got the Green Lantern ring that lets him do whatever he wants. And they do a great job showing that in here with him just throwing over cars, flipping things off. I mean, he's just doing all sorts of things with this. But there's a scene in the comics where he confronts Batman. And he's mouthing off to Batman, and Batman just rears back and punches him in the face and knocks him out in one punch. You're like, oh. So I'm looking forward to maybe they bring that scene in eventually when they introduce Batman, that maybe the Guy Gardner can be around somewhere, and for him to punch him in the face, that would just make my day. But those are the 3 heroes that they've got there. They do mention, and I found it interesting, that the Earth has had people with meta powers or superpowers for 3,000 years.
Yeah, that was
Superman had came on he came to Earth about 30 years ago, and then he started being a superhero about 3 years ago. So he's been around in Metropolis for about 3 years as Superman, but but you still don't know that much about him. You've got Clark Kent, who's always interviewing him somehow. And you've got, but he doesn't, like, he had not had that big meeting with Lex Luthor up until this movie, so he's still kind of getting his his hero-ness underneath him for this movie, which is
Yeah.
kind of cool. We don't see the origin story, but we do get to see him as a pretty young hero kind of finding his way.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't know that. Yeah, okay, so I didn't know about the metahumans too. Is that an original storyline, or is that specific to this movie?
The metahuman thing, depending on what version of DC, because DC Comics keeps having reboots and changing things. And at one point, they made Superman the first superhero, but then they had heroes way back in the 40s that were popular that DC had that would have been around before, and they had different Earths, and they had all these other things. And so they kind of, I think the current status is that they've been around for like 3,000 years. So that kind of, and it's going to flow into all the movies going forward, since James Gunn is basically the head of DC Studios. And so they've taken a page out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe playbook on trying to have one person being the head person that's going to make sure everything kind of stays and flows together.
Okay. So they've basically, if you haven't seen it, they're metahumans, which are basically humans with powers.
Yep.
But they've been here for 3,000 years.
Yeah, that's what different ones have doing different things. And my understanding is you could say what some of the gods were, that sometimes those were metahumans.
Okay, yeah.
So,
like old ancient Greece.
Right. So if you had powers back then, that makes sense that one of them might be something like that. So,
okay. Yeah, they did a really good job, and I liked how they introduced that. And I loved how it was started Superman in the middle of his
middle
life.
of a fight, basically. Yeah.
Well, all would show him growing up and all the stuff.
Right. We didn't have to do all that, right?
And they've set themselves up well, so in the future they can use that as content. Like let's talk about his back.
Right, and you definitely could have that. So
yeah. And Nathan Fillion. So when Nathan Fillion was in Serenity, he was also on a TV show.
He's been on a couple different shows. Castle and The Rookie are two of the big ones that he was on beyond Firefly Serenity. Because Serenity was a movie based off the show Firefly.
Yeah, he was the Serenity and Firefly are a lot of sci-fi fans. They hold that true. And when I saw him in it, I was like, oh, "This is cool." But it took me a minute I had to keep saying, "Who is he?" The haircut did throw me off. And I think he's probably the best comic relief too in that movie. He's really
most definitely, and that is how his character is supposed to be. Is that comic relief for that?
Yeah, that's interesting. Did you know Christopher Reeve's son was in it?
I did know Christopher Reeve's son was in it, which I thought was an amazing way to go with that. That you put him in there. Christopher Reeves, of course, being Superman from the 1978 through, I think, 86 was Superman 4. He was the Superman many of us grew up on. The tagline originally for that first Superman movie was, "Do you believe a man could fly?" And that's So it was definitely But I did hear that. I was excited that he was in there for it, because I think that really says something. Because Christopher Reeves was so cool as Superman. So
very cool. So where do you rank this in terms of the Superman movies?
The first two Superman movies with Christopher Reeves have a very special place in my heart, especially number 2. And number 2 has its issues, but that whole seeing a superhero on screen and doing it so well, those really are kind of that's where I go back to. That's kind of my standard. I place this just right below that. I love this one, and I'll tell you why. For many, many reasons. One, we get back to Superman as I think he should be. He is that guy who does everything he can to save everybody. He is so concerned about humanity. He loves people. So you've got that in his character, which I think has been missing for a while. You have a lot of cool things going on in this movie. The kaiju was awesome. Crypto the super dog. I loved being. My father was a big Superman comic book reader when he was a kid in the 50s and so in the 60s, and he had a whole collection of comic books and got me into comic books. So I know a lot of stuff about that. And so I read all those kind of, and a lot of them were kind of jokey kind of comics back from the 50s. One, because the Comic Authority had come in because of violence in some comics, and a book that somebody had written basically blaming all of the youth's problems of the 50s on comic books. And they did it with correlative studies, which is just my favorite. So, but you have the introduction. You have the introduction of Crypto the Super Dog from those comics.
Yeah.
You also have the introduction of Supergirl from those comics, and we'll get to her in a moment. So basically, and I forget exactly how he came, if they found another ship and he was on there and Clark just kind of adopted him, put a cape on him. But at one point there was Crypto the Superdog, there was, oh my gosh, I can't remember, Streaky the super cat that hung out with Supergirl. There was a super monkey and a super horse. And talking about monkeys, what did you think of literal monkeys at keyboards doing the social media stuff? I thought that was so funny because that's kind of one of the jokes. It's just a bunch of monkeys behind keyboards. Well, Lex Luthor makes these monkeys smart enough to be able to get behind keyboards and say nasty things about Superman and all of these social media posts that it trends in what was it, super poop or something? I forget what it was that they were calling him, but I'm like, oh my gosh, that's just amazing. You also have, I forgot the other superhero that we've got introduced in here, and he's not originally with the Justice Gang, is Metamorpho, who can change his different shapes to gas, to different types of solids, and even make a hand into kryptonite, which
he was really,
yeah. So he is a weird character from that 50s and early 60s time where they're introducing all sorts of crazy, weird characters in the comics. But
can change into anything you want.
Yeah.
So that was really good.
I agree. So you've got that. You've got you really show the heart of Clark Kent and Superman in this movie. You also have, you bring in the Justice Gang and these other characters in the same world. So you're making it kind of rich there. They drop little things for the different fans. They talk about a space imp attacking, and Clark is trying to rest. And I love that they took this moment for Lois and Clark to be able to sit down and have an honest, heartfelt conversation. While this monster is basically attacking the Earth behind him, he's just like, they've got it. It's just a space imp. And but it really it took this movie that had so much action to it and gave it that slow moment that it could kind of grow and build those characters, and you could kind of see the heart of the characters, and you saw that at different points, but that gave that great opportunity. I also loved how they used Ma and Pa Kent and basically did that same thing with Clark when he was kind of down on himself, and Pa comes out and has this heartfelt conversation about it. You choose who you want to be. It's not who you're born as. You choose who you want to be. And I loved that the first time we see Ma and Pa Kent, they're calling Clark on the phone. And they've got the phone set in the middle of the coffee table, and she's leaning over it, yelling into it.
Yeah, it was very relevant.
And Pa's over there going, yeah. And he's sitting in his easy chair, and I'm like, I know this couple really well. Where I grew up, these guys were everywhere. It was like, oh my gosh. And they're supposed to be from Kansas. And I'm like, being from Missouri, I relate completely to them. I'm like, I know these people. So I thought that was probably the best presentation of Pa and Ma Kent I've ever seen. Now, usually they have them killed off before you get too far in the movie, or like in Man of Steel, let Pa get taken by a tornado.
Yeah, yeah.
Superman wouldn't do that. He goes and saves squirrels. Come on.
Right.
The other thing. Oh, the person which made the biggest impact on me was Lex Luthor, because I've never had Lex Luthor in a movie be a threat in my mind. Yeah, he's kind of bumbling and crazy and shoots nuclear missiles at California to blow it off the map, so all his property in Nevada will be worth so much or whatever. It's always some sort of crazy antic there, but he's never a real threat. This guy's a threat to Superman. This guy,
Right.
because he's got a clone with the same powers as Superman, and that he can control, and he studied Superman so well, he knows all of his moves and what he's going to do next just because he's watched him so much. He has outthought Superman at every level.
Yeah. That was
He's
an
a
interesting take.
threat. It was. I love that take because that, in my mind, is the intensity of what Superman is, or of what Lex Luthor is. This is why this guy is Superman's greatest enemy, is he knows him that well, and he is that threat that that has never really been presented so well on the screen in my mind. Every other instance, I'm like, he's plotting whatever else, but this guy is smart enough, and he gets thrown into prison at the end after they catch him and all this other stuff. And he's even willing to sacrifice a lot of the world to black holes that he's creating just to be able to try to kill off Superman. Superman, in his mind, is such a threat that he's willing to almost destroy the world to kill him.
Yeah.
And because of that focus and hatred and his all the money that he has and the resources, he can do things that nobody else can do. And I was just super impressed with this Superman. I love the old Lex Luthor from the first Superman movies, but he's not really a threat. This guy
He's
is.
not he's kind of a con artist that
He is. Yeah. Greatest criminal mind of our time. Yeah, well.
That's
so,
right, yeah.
So, in my mind, this was the greatest portrayal of that. This really made me love this movie, that we had such a villain. Because I've always been like, let's see some of Superman's other villains, right? He's got a whole list of great villains that we only really ever see Lex Luthor. And when I saw that they announced Lex Luthor as the main villain, I was like, here we go again, another Lex Luthor story. But this time I was like, okay, I'm glad we went here. I would love to see Brainiac. I'd love to see just a ton of different Superman villains. But this one was really good. So let me say one more thing, and I'll let you jump in and tell me some of your thoughts there. But I'm a Supergirl fan. I have been since I picked up some of her comics in the 70s and 80s. I had a whole line of comics that she did in the early 80s. I had the whole collection. So I love Supergirl, one, because she's not as set in what she's supposed to do yet. She questions herself. Some of those had her as a teenager. So I always kind of loved how they played her. She wasn't as, here she actually was born before Clark. He was a baby, came to Earth, and her ship gets stuck on the way, and she gets there after him, and by this time he's become an adult. And there's some other, depending on how, this backstory, depending on what it is. But this one, she's coming of age, going to other planets with red suns, so she can get drunk, because she can't get drunk on a planet with a yellow sun.
That was fun. That was a great way to.
And there is a Supergirl movie coming out that's going to have that character tell her story there, based off a really cool comic book series called Supergirl. Not Girl of Steel, but Girl of Tomorrow. That's what it is. And it's a mini series that kind of takes and reimagines Supergirl and has this whole thing of where she's going off to get drunk and doing all these things. And she's not the goody goody that her cousin is, but she still knows that she's supposed to do the right thing. So anyway, I loved her appearance. I loved her coming in and basically being totally disrespectful. And then that Crypto was really her dog, and I'm like, yeah, that fits.
Yeah.
Okay. So I really love that. It was the perfect use of Supergirl there, and to be able to promote that Supergirl movie coming up. So as a fanboy of Supergirl, I was just like, oh, and I love. Unlike the Supergirl in the Flash movie, who was okay, she didn't look like Supergirl. She didn't feel like Supergirl to me. She was kind of a different character. This one feels like this is who Supergirl's supposed to be. So I was like, yes.
Okay.
And I did like the Supergirl movie even though it's a terrible movie. I went back and rewatched it from the 80s.
Yeah, that's good. I liked it.
I do have Helen Slater, who played Supergirl in that movie. I have an autograph from her, and she signed it to my daughter because my daughter at the time was a huge Supergirl fan. But yeah, wow. But anyway, so I say all that to say I really like this movie a lot, Joe. I left that theater feeling the hope and feeling like I was given a really good story, and that I'm like, man, they hit everything that needed to. And I was really worried at the end. I'm like, I know Superman's not going to die here and that Lex is not going to win, but I don't know how he wins at this point. And so I thought he was very creative and actually outsmarted Lex, calling Crypto in to get the little cameras that Lex was using was genius. So
go get the tool.
Yeah, exactly. Because we'd seen kind of what he does with some of that throughout the movie. So yeah. So what other thoughts do you have, Joe? I talked way too long.
I think it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I appreciated what they did in terms of staying relevant. The cast was great. I think it's a very good movie.
I agree with that. So,
James Gunn did a really good job. He's the director.
Yeah, James Gunn did.
Yeah, from a guy that almost got canceled himself.
He did get canceled for a while. Then went back. And Marvel took him back, and of course he got a gig doing DC with the Suicide Squad, and then he came back and was asked to take that over. So it's good to see that society hasn't come to the point we can't redeem people. People say stupid things or say something that was acceptable 10 years ago and is not now. And sometimes you're saying those things on purpose, trying to get people riled up. It's not always that you necessarily believe whatever the extreme is. But I'm glad to see that he was allowed to do this, and that I'm hopeful. I'm a Marvel fan over DC, but I think both of them are amazing. And if you're having good movies for both, I think that only benefits everybody. I think that's so. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about how it did, and then we'll give our ratings here real quick. So the rating system out there for IMDb, it's 7.2 out of 10, which kind of surprised me it was that low. I honestly thought IMDb score would be a little higher. Wow. It's not. Rotten Tomatoes, because Rotten Tomatoes has two different sections. You've got the critics with the tomato meter, and you get the popcorn meter with the fans that they've done. Tomato meter, so the critics give it an 83%. That's pretty good. Especially for a movie that's a superhero movie, critics often rip those apart. The fans thought it was even better, giving it 90%.
Oh, yeah.
So,
it blew. I mean, it was huge box office too, right?
It did. The Letterboxd gave it a 3.9 out of 5, which is a great score. Let me see if I can pull open how it did, because I thought I had the box office up. So,
probably $500 million.
Well, and it made $615 million worldwide, and $347 million of that was in the U.S. So
success.
So it's a success, right? The problem is what we compare these things to movies pre-COVID, right? Pre-COVID, people were going to the movies a lot before COVID.
Yeah,
And so
they
your
were.
superhero movies, you have Avengers making $1 billion. You have like most of the Avengers movie made $1 billion or more. You've got all these movies that are superheroes, and it almost became a deal if you couldn't make, at least 750 billion that you billion or million. I think it's
Billion.
million.
Billion. I mean, that's Batman almost did that.
It's million. It's million. I'm sorry, because some of them hit 1 billion, but so 615 million compared to movies of 2018, 2019 is not really being seen as successful nowadays. But in today's society, people have not gone back to the theaters like they did before COVID. You do have you occasionally have a movie where people will suddenly all get drawn in, but we also have the rights of the streaming platforms that have
Yeah.
really kind of allowed us to be able to watch things kind of on our schedule. And so people will stop and it's like, well, I want to see this movie, but I'll wait till it comes to a streaming
Right.
service I have, or I'll stream it that way. Because and the other part of it is ticket prices that are so high to go in theaters. I went and saw Superman, and it cost me $17 just for my movie ticket. And then if you get any sort of concessions, you've spent $30+ on a movie. It used to be a cheap date to take a girl to a movie, right? You could take her to a movie and dinner, and you didn't stress out too much. Now,
Yeah.
taking somebody out to the movies is an expensive venture. So anyway,
Yeah.
so it did well. It didn't rock the box office, but I think so far it is the highest grossing superhero movie of this year.
Oh,
So,
good.
and you still have Fantastic Four going on out there and some other ones. So we'll see how it ends up. But Superman did well in the theaters. We'll just say that.
Yes, it did.
So, Joe, we said all that. We talked about the movie, what we liked. Didn't hear a whole lot of what we didn't like. Was there anything you didn't like?
I'd have to think about that. I mean, offhand, not a real. Well, I guess maybe the Kent parents, maybe they
Yeah.
were a little too white trashish for me, or kind of. But
If you're living in Kansas and it's not Kansas City,
yeah, or they almost were sounded dumb.
but they gave great advice. They did. And the other thing to know was his parents were older, couldn't have children, and they were already, I think in the comics, they were already in their 40s when they found him. So
That's
they
right.
were already older. So you're talking about people that are probably 70 plus. And so a lot of them don't know how to use technology. So that's, I mean, like my father doesn't have a technology buffaloes him with some of the stuff. So, that's the way of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can't say anything offhand. I mean, I thought it was
All
really
right.
good. Is there anything that you didn't like?
Not really. I really liked it. I like some of the one-liners in it. I love the maybe kindness is the new punk rock.
Oh yeah,
So, which and I loved how they had this whole discussion about punk rock and what's really punk rock and not, and then and she doesn't believe that he's into any of this, and then she ends up in his bedroom from high school, and he got those punk rock posters up there, and she's like, "Oh, I thought that was fun."
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, what grade do you give this? On our A to F, what do you think this is, Joe?
I'll give it an A minus.
Oh, that's high praise. That's great. An A minus.
Wow.
I went and reviewed this right after I saw it. I gave it a straight up A at that point. I'm going to do the same here. Love this movie. This revitalized my love for the character of Superman. Gave me hope that we'll actually have good Superman movies. And again, I know that there are people that love Henry Cavill as Superman, and they were very frustrated with that. Henry Cavill is a really cool guy. He is a great geek and actor, and I didn't love the writing they had for him, but I thought he was a fine Superman. But this cast, I think, nails it for me, and I can see all of our actors in the roles that they were cast for without having any questions, and I just give it a straight up A because this movie delighted me in theaters, and when I went and watched it again on HBO Max, it delighted me again. And so
that's fine.
I'm really liking this movie. So
yeah, that's fine. Awesome.
All right. Any last words, Joe?
Nothing. It sounds like you felt like Superman after you walked out of the movie theaters.
I did feel very super and empowered. And for those watching, I apologize. We normally try to keep this under 30 minutes, and we are now just over 40 minutes. So apologize for being a little longer. We wanted to cover this thoroughly. I was super excited to talk about this once I knew Joe had watched it. So thanks for sticking around with us and watching it. We'll be back next week with another movie review. We'll do our best to keep it under 30 for you. But until then, stay geeky and keep watching movies and be the hero you want to be.
Thanks, Larry.